Right now, a heap of rusted metal is the only thing preventing a world war. It is not a nuclear silo. It is not a high-tech base. It is a 100-meter ship that should have sunk decades ago. This is the BRP Sierra Madre. It sits crooked and decaying atop a submerged reef called Second Thomas Shoal. Its hull permanently grounded, its structure slowly being eaten alive by salt and time. To China, it is an eyesore that must be removed. To the Philippines, it is something far more important. It is a commissioned naval vessel. It is sovereign territory. That distinction changes everything, because under international law, if China touches it, if they board it, tow it, or destroy it, they are not just removing debris, they are invading a nation. But here is the part that makes this story almost unbelievable. The ship was never meant to be here. It was never designed to be a fortress, a frontline outpost, or a geopolitical flashpoint. In 1999, the Philippines made a desperate decision. They intentionally ran this World War II-era landing ship aground on the reef. No ceremony, no announcement, just a calculated act of strategic defiance. The reason was simple and urgent. Just a few years earlier, China had taken control of Mischief Reef, not with warships, but with what they described as fishermen's shelters. Those shelters did not stay small for long. They expanded, hardened, militarized. Within years, they had transformed into full-scale military installations. Manila saw what was happening. Reef by reef, presence became control. Control became ownership. And they realized they were losing the ocean. So they used the only weapon they had left, presence. Not firepower, not technology, just a physical marker that could not be ignored. A rusting ship planted firmly on contested ground. For more than 25 years, that decision has held. A small rotation of Philippine Marines lives aboard the Sierra Madre. They endure extreme isolation, harsh weather, and constant surveillance. The ship has no modern defenses, no real protection, just corroded steel and human resolve. They are not there to fight a battle. They are there to make one unavoidable, because their presence turns this wreck into a tripwire. As long as they remain, the shoal is not empty, and as long as it is not empty, it cannot be quietly taken. If the ship disappears, the equation changes instantly. The reef becomes just another unoccupied outpost, and in the South China Sea, empty space does not stay empty for long. What they do not tell you is how close we are to the breaking point. From a distance, the situation can seem static, almost frozen in time. A grounded ship, a territorial dispute, a slow-moving standoff. But beneath that stillness, the pressure has been building rapidly. Since 2021, the number of Chinese vessels operating around Second Thomas Shoal has increased 14-fold. Not doubled, not tripled, 14 times. That kind of escalation is not accidental. It is deliberate, calculated, and sustained. China is no longer just observing the outpost. It is surrounding it. Layer by layer, ship by ship, they are tightening control over the waters. Coast Guard vessels, maritime militia boats, and fishing ships, many of which do not fish at all, form a near-constant presence. They linger just beyond the threshold of open conflict, but close enough to dominate the space. Their objective is not a dramatic takeover. It is something quieter. They are trying to make the Sierra Madre unsustainable. This is what modern strategists call gray zone warfare. It operates in the space between peace and war. No missiles, no declarations, just constant pressure designed to wear down the opponent over time. But the tactics are far from subtle. Chinese vessels have used military-grade lasers to temporarily blind Filipino crews navigating resupply boats. These are not warning lights. They are targeted beams intended to disorient and disable. Water cannons, industrial strength and shockingly destructive, have been deployed against small wooden and rubber boats. Engines fail, hulls crack, supplies are lost to the sea. Each incident is aggressive but carefully calibrated, enough to intimidate, not enough to trigger war. In June 2024, the situation crossed another line. For the first time, there were confirmed reports of direct physical confrontation. Chinese personnel boarded or clashed with Philippine sailors using bladed weapons, not firearms, not explosives, blades. Close-range, controlled violence designed to send a message without crossing the threshold into armed conflict. It is a dangerous game of limits. China is probing, testing, searching for the exact point where the United States, bound by treaty to defend the Philippines, would be forced to respond. Every escalation is a question. How far is too far? The Philippines, however, has not remained passive. Their response is something called assertive transparency. Instead of hiding incidents, they document everything. Cameras capture collisions, laser strikes, and water cannon attacks in real time. The footage is released quickly, often within hours. The strategy is simple. If the confrontation cannot be avoided, it will be exposed. They are turning global attention into a form of deterrence. But visibility alone may not be enough, because with each passing month, the encounters grow more frequent, more intense, more unpredictable. The question is no longer whether another incident will happen. It is whether the next one will go too far. Why would superpowers risk everything for what appears to be a broken ship sitting on a remote reef? At first glance, it makes no sense. There are no cities here, no visible wealth, just shallow waters and scattered coral formations. But the true value of this region is not what you can see. It is what moves through it. The South China Sea is one of the most critical arteries of global trade. Every year, an estimated $3.4 trillion in goods passes through these waters. Oil, natural gas, electronics, food, raw materials. Entire supply chains depend on safe and open access to these routes. Control this space, and you do not just control territory, you influence the global economy. Second Thomas Shoal sits within this vast network like a pressure point. It is not the largest or resource-rich location, but it is strategically positioned within a contested zone defined by overlapping claims. For China, dominance here is part of a much larger vision. The so-called Nine-Dash Line extends across most of the South China Sea, enclosing waters that are also claimed by multiple Southeast Asian nations. If that claim becomes reality, not just on maps but in practice, it would reshape the balance of power in the region. Shipping lanes could be monitored, influenced, or even restricted. That possibility alone raises alarms across the world. But there is another layer to this conflict, one that does not involve ships or reefs at all. It is happening online. China is believed to invest heavily in cognitive warfare within the Philippines. This includes coordinated social media campaigns, troll farms, and influence operations designed to shape public opinion. The goal is not to win a battle at sea, but to shift perception on land. If the population begins to question whether defending these waters is worth the cost, the strategic equation changes. Narratives are seeded. Doubt is amplified. Voices that align with certain viewpoints are elevated. Over time, the line between domestic debate and external influence becomes harder to distinguish. It is a quieter kind of conflict, but no less significant, because control of territory often begins with control of narrative. Meanwhile, the Sierra Madre continues to decay. China does not need to rush. It does not need to escalate into open conflict. It can wait. The ocean itself is doing the work. Salt water corrodes steel. Storms weaken structure. Time erodes resistance. The longer the ship remains in its current condition, the closer it moves toward failure. And once it fails, everything changes. No ship means no permanent presence. No presence means no effective occupation. And in a contested sea, absence creates opportunity. This is not just a battle over space. It is a battle against time itself. On paper, the Philippines has already won. In 2016, an international tribunal in The Hague delivered a landmark ruling that invalidated China's sweeping 9-line claim over the South China Sea. The court confirmed that Second Thomas Shoal lies within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, giving Manila clear legal standing over the area. It was a decisive victory under international law and was widely supported by much of the global community. However, the ruling came with a fundamental weakness. It had no enforcement mechanism. China rejected the decision outright and refused to recognize the authority of the tribunal. Instead of scaling back its presence, it continued and even intensified its activities across the region. Ships remained in disputed waters, patrols increased, and pressure on outposts like the Sierra Madre steadily grew. The law was clear, but it did not change the balance of power on the water. This created a difficult position for the Philippines. Enforcing the ruling on its own would risk triggering a military confrontation with a far stronger power. At the same time, failing to act would allow China to gradually strengthen its control and practice, regardless of what the law stated. As a result, Manila has been forced into a careful balancing act, asserting its rights while avoiding actions that could escalate into open conflict. The Sierra Madre plays a central role in this strategy. As long as the ship remains grounded and occupied by Philippine Marines, it serves as a physical symbol of sovereignty and continuous presence. That presence reinforces the country's legal position and prevents the shoal from being treated as abandoned or unclaimed. Even in its deteriorating condition, the ship carries significant strategic weight. But the reality is that the Sierra Madre is not built to last forever. Decades of exposure to salt water and harsh weather have severely weakened its structure. Rust has eaten through key sections of the hull, and parts of the ship are no longer safe to use. Repairs are limited and often improvised, relying entirely on risky resupply missions that are frequently disrupted by Chinese vessels. Over time, the ship is slowly losing its ability to remain intact. If the Sierra Madre were to collapse or sink, the consequences would be immediate. Without a permanent structure or stationed personnel, China could argue that the shoal is effectively unoccupied. That would open the door for it to establish its own presence, likely starting with small installations that could later expand into more permanent and fortified structures. This pattern has already been seen elsewhere in the South China Sea. The situation is further complicated by the involvement of the United States. Under a mutual defense treaty, an armed attack on Philippine forces or vessels could trigger American intervention. Because the Sierra Madre is still officially a commissioned naval vessel, any direct attack on it carries serious implications. This turns the ship into a potential flashpoint, where even a limited escalation could have far-reaching consequences. For now, both sides continue to operate in a narrow space between confrontation and restraint. However, that space is shrinking. The longer the situation continues, the greater the pressure becomes, and the higher the risk that a single incident could shift the balance. At its core, this is not just a legal dispute. It is a test of whether international law can hold against sustained pressure without direct enforcement. And as the Sierra Madre continues to decay, the outcome of that test becomes increasingly uncertain.